Once the machine is set up, according to the manufacturer's recommendations, it is now time to start the unit. With the machine plugged into a dedicated electrical line, make sure the main switch is in the O position. Turn the status DC power knob to the right. You should get a green illuminated light indicating the power is on. Make sure the emergency button is released, if activated. Place the pallet that is going to be wrapped on the turntable, making sure it is centered and there is nothing protruding outside the base of the turntable. All pallet jacks, forklifts and personnel should be clear from the wrapping zone prior to starting the stretch wrapper. Pull the wrapping film 1/4 way around the base of the pallet of boxes, securing the end of the film on a corner of the lowest box on the pallet. Go to the control panel and select the desired wrap mode, automatic or manual. Start the machine by pressing the Start-Stop button. Your Wulftec Stretchwrapper is equipped with a standard S control panel. Let's take a look at each of the controls and all applicable functions. The status power knob initiates the initial startup power and provides a status, or fault error code, upon startup. On initial startup, or in the event there is a malfunction, the status power knob will blink green. When the machine has cycled through the startup function check, the knob light will glow a steady green indicating the system is ready. There are 5 additional codes that can occur through the status power knob that you should be familiar with. These codes are as follows. 1 blinking light, the emergency stop is, or was activated. 2 blinking lights, there is a lack of film. 3 blinking lights, the carriage gate is open. 4 blinking lights, there is a carriage motion problem. 3 blinking lights followed by a long steady green light, there is an issue with the rotation of the platform. The emergency stop push knob initiates immediate shutdown of the entire machine if activated. The emergency stop lock knob will remain engaged until the knob is rotated clockwise and released. This knob should only be used in the event of an emergency. If you need to stop or pause the machine outside of an emergency, use the green Start-Stop push button at the bottom right of the control panel. The Start-Stop Pause push button. Press this button to stop, start or pause the stretch wrapper cycle. Pressing and holding this button for more than 5 seconds will reset the wrapper program to its initial state. The Auto Height, On-Off control knob, allows the activation or deactivation of the photo eye. It is the photo eye that detects the height of the pallet bundle during the wrapping process. The Carriage Adjustment knob allows the movement of the carriage in an up or down movement, while the stretch wrapper is in the stop mode. This allows the user to do incremental adjustments to the carriage and film coverage area, to include adding or subtracting from the overwrap distance. The top wrap selector allows the adjustment for the number of wraps on top of the pallet bundle. The selector can be adjusted to allow wraps between 1 and 9 additional passes. The bottom wrap counter selector allows the user to select the number of wraps on the bottom of the pallet bundle. This allows a wrap selection between 2 to 9 passes. The operator can select, or tune, a number of wrapping parameters and variables, in order to achieve the desired wrap configuration. These controls also affect the cycle times. The rotation speed allows the speed of the wrap rotation to be adjusted in a rotation cycle. The film carriage speed control varies the rate at which the carriage travels up and down. As you probably have noticed, the up and down speed controls are separate. That is because these functions work in conjunction with the rotation speed, and assist with determining the amount of film overlap. The slower the carriage speed, given that the rotation speed remains the same, the greater the overlap. The rotation speed allows the turntable to be set at the best suited load variable from minimum to 16 RPMs. The rotation speed should be set to the optimum speed for load stability, and when adjusting the rotation speed, it should be adjusted slowly, if the machine is in motion. The spiral up and down controls the ability to spiral the film in an up pattern, or an up and down pattern. This control will normally use the up and down option based on the reinforcement preference of the operator. If the selection is set to just the up spiral pattern, the wrap will stop once the film height reaches the predetermined wrap height. The carriage will then return to the bottom of the carriage rails without wrapping. The next control we will discuss is the top cover control. Turning the top cover control to the on position will allow the wrap to cycle through to the top of the pallet wrap process, and then stop the wrapping to allow the user to place a top cover on the pallet. Once the top cover is placed in position, the operator can press the start button, and the carriage will provide a single wrap to the top cover. Once the top cover has a single wrap, the carriage will go down to the carriage rest position. Remember, this option will stop the wrapping process mid-cycle to allow the positioning of the top cover and will not restart until the operator presses the start button. It is possible to forget this option is on, or leaving this option on between operators. In doing so, the operator may think there is an error when the carriage stops. Upper and lower limit setting controls establish the lowest and highest points the film carriage will allow the film to wrap. Simply explained, the lower the limit stop block on the tower is positioned, the lower limit of the wrap. Upper limit setting works just like the lower limit, just opposite. The upper limit stop block sets the upper wrap limit. However, if this bracket is set lower than the top of the load, it will override the photo eye. We will discuss this in more detail later in this training. The film overwrap feature is the extent to which the carriage wraps above the load. Under stretch tension, the film will tend to fold itself. Once the film reaches the top of the pallet, the film will go slightly over the top of the load. This creates a better degree of stabilization and unitization. It is important to note that the auto height photo eye can have an impact on the amount of overwrap achieved. The top wrap control determines the number of top wraps applied to the top of the load, and the amount may be set on the control panel in 1 to 3 basic wraps, or 2 to 9 standard wraps. The film tension control panel adjusts the tension, or pull, between the film carriage and the pallet load. The higher the tension, the tighter the load is wrapped. Make sure that you are not using the tension to secure a load if the machine is set with a pre-stretch setup. It is important to know that the film will often shrink back to its original diameter once it has stretched over the load. Depending on how tight the film was applied, there is the possibility that the film could contract enough to crush or damage contents in the pallet. The last topic we will discuss will be the load height sensing feature of the Wulftec Stretchwrapper. The manual load height sensing feature allows for the carriage to stop at a predetermined height for a given load. This feature allows the operator to turn off the photo sensing eye and configure the wrapper for a specific or unique pallet height. The auto height function must be turned to the off position for the manual load sensing feature to work. To adjust the load sensing height, first locate the load sensing blocks. The blocks can be located on the front of the tower, if the operator is looking from the front of the machine. The limit stop adjustment rail is on the right side of the tower and vertical with the tower. To set the lower limit stop, first, loosen the lower limit stop. Next, slide the limit stop to the desired height. Once in the desired position, tighten the screw on the limit stop. To set the upper limit stop, loosen the upper limit stop. Slide the limit stop to the desired height. If more overwrap is desired, turn off the photo sensing eye. Once in the desired position, tighten the screw on the limit stop. It is important to note, at each end of each strut is a travel security stop that is placed in a fixed position. At no time are these security stops to be removed or altered. Doing so can create damage to the machinery and cause serious injury. The carriage can go well below the bottom of the pallet and wrapping bar, which allows for a considerable amount of wrapping of the pallet. If this is not desired, set the lower stop so the lower edge of the film passes just slightly above the wrapping bar when the lower carriage limit reaches the lower limit stop. This machinery is equipped with a diffused photo eye for automatic load height sensing. This photo eye allows for variations in load height, while maintaining a predetermined overwrap setting. The machine is also equipped with a manual override or limit switch. It should be noted that when using a 30-inch carriage with 20-inch film on the machine, the photo eye will not work on small pallet loads higher than 20 inches and smaller than 33 inches. If this is a job requirement, a special photo eye bracket can be ordered to cover these loads. It is impossible to foresee every potential issue that could occur while using the Stretchwrapper. The most important factors to remember while using this, and any other equipment, is to follow all safety precautions, and never deviate from the operator's manual. In any situation that may not be clearly covered, always stop using the equipment and contact a supervisor immediately. Before we conclude this training, let us review some key topics to see if you retained the information we covered.